Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 40th official Kessel Run Comics podcast. This is your host, Macadelic, and normally I would be saying your co-host, Skelly Boy, but tonight Skelly is absent. He couldn't get off work fast enough to make it here to do our podcast. Originally, we were going to do Matthew as just an addition. We were going to have, my 2 picks, Jacob's 2 picks, Matthew's 2 picks, and going joint with a 7th pick and have a top 7 this week. But instead, Jacob, as I said, wasn't able to make it, but instead we pleasantly have Matthew as my co-host. So, say what's up, Dark Horse.
What up, my peoples?
I was about to say, it's been a long time. Like what was the last podcast you were on? 3 or 6 or something?
6.
It was single digits.
It was single digits the last time I came on.
Yeah, so this is going to be hype. And it's just going to be the 2 of us, so it'll be similar. Wait, no, that podcast was the 3 of us, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If only we could have got back to that. Maybe podcast number 50 will be, all of us together, and maybe we could even get Dad.
Yeah, maybe. That would be super cool. Some Uncle Limsky action.
A multi-generational Chomcast.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Bubby, I want you to introduce one of your 2 picks, number 5 on our list.
Okay.
Give it to us.
It's Werewolf by Night number 1. Let me put it in there. Make sure it don't slip.
This is Werewolf by Night number 1. This is written by someone I am not familiar with named Taboo. That is just what their writer name, or kind of the whole Mark Twain thing. Or
Yeah, their pseudonym.
Yeah, exactly. We were having a conversation about that before this podcast. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm completely unfamiliar with the writer, or with the artist as well. Jackendoff, Eaton, Hannah, and MRVA. I don't know any of the people who worked on this book. Personally, I didn't think this book was, knock out of the park type nice, but I felt it was an appropriate beginning to just a 4-part miniseries.
I agree with that assessment. I'm like I said earlier before we started, I'm cautiously optimistic about the continuation of this series because, it's not the best. They could have done a lot better with the issue number 1, but at the same time, it's a decent starting point.
Right.
It's acceptable.
Yeah. You would say that you were disappointed when you found out that this was only going to be a limited series and not an ongoing.
Oh yeah, because I like some of the older Werewolf by Night stuff. I've read some of that and it's good. Yeah. It's good.
Pretty much just any of that Bronze Age horror that was going on with the man thing.
Oh yeah.
And some Ghost Rider, even though he's not exactly horror, he has horror elements.
Yeah. Really. And then also, the horror stuff that's from, DC as well. I really love, me, I love John Constantine and, some of the
Mystic players.
Yeah, the Sandman universe stuff is, type nice.
Oh, yeah. And that stuff being geared specifically for adults, too. Now that you're an adult, it's so fun to just, have a field day. Nothing's off limits. Read whatever.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So, ultimately, I want to know 2 things. First thing, I want to know what your favorite and least favorite part of this book was. And second, I want you to give me your rating.
Okay, so...
1 through 5, only halves and wholes.
Okay, well, to answer your first question, my favorite part about that book was the transformation, panels.
Right.
It'll have a page or a page and a half of just him transforming, and I blanked on his name, but
yeah, I'm forgetting his name. Oh, Jake.
Yeah, Jake. And he's transforming into the werewolf, and he's thanging out kind of stuff, and I'm dang, that's nice. That's nice. And I'd have to say, also another of my favorite is how he controls his transformation to get back to his human state through music. and like his childhood friend,
I had a
cousin or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, there was that one little scene in it where the grandma or whatever makes a joke, and it almost made me think what I thought previously, like you said, was like a cousin or maybe even a sister, but it doesn't feel very sistery. Yeah. But that comment that the grandma made me feel like they were a thing, like they were together, like a couple.
Well, I mean, shoot. Like
but the whole rest of the book, I got cousin vibes, so it was super weird.
It is like, oh.
Did you just see that waterfall or whatever that was?
What was it?
I hope somebody just caught that or like saw that because something clear just fell. Like I guarantee you, when I'm able to watch the video back,
I mean, shit.
And I don't know what it was.
The predator might be in our roof or something.
Yikes! What if instead, since we just looked up and couldn't see it, it was the monsters from Something's Killing, like the ones only kids can see. Since we're adults now, like we can't see them.
Shit, like we gonna get fucked.
Oh boy! All right, Matt. Die. Give me your rating on this book. We got to get to number 4.
But okay, yeah, my rating on that was I'd give it a 3.
Okay,
a whole
3 out of 5. Yeah. I'm probably gonna give it a 2.5, only because that's right in the middle of our 5 scale.
Yeah,
and so I feel like that's probably right where it belongs. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for number 4 on our list, excuse me while I reach over and extend, but number 4 on our list is a new story arc from Star Wars Bounty Hunters. This is Star Wars Bounty Hunters number 6, the beginning of Target Valance story arc. I really, really like this book. This was my pick. The thing that I probably think is just quirky and kind of cool specifically about this arc that we're about to delve into is the arc is called Target Valance, and the first series that put me on Baylor Valance as a character and actually, made me enjoy him and want to see more of him in other titles was the 7-part Star Wars maxi series or, extended mini series called Star Wars Target Vader. And that's where, Valance is hunting down Darth Vader, but being that, now he's the one getting hunted, and they choose to do the whole Target Valance thing. Just thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
How did you feel like this was as far as a start to a second arc?
I felt like it was a good start, especially since they had that kind of like flashback to like what caused his injury, or like his injuries that caused him to have to become like a cyborg, basically.
Yeah, I was about to say, my dude is the whole more machine now than man.
Yeah, like, so literally like some Vader parallels there, But,
yes, especially during that whole scene that you pointed to me when you were reading it, and it was like the whole, like he was screaming out in pain, and like there was that droid operating on him and replacing everything,
Yeah. And he was just, like, holding on to life, like, clutching that memento from his girl and stuff, like, and then at the end he finds, people that were from his past as well, and we're like, kind of
everything came full circle,
And it came full circle, and it's like, the only thing I have a little bit of an issue with is, like, it's like, okay, it came full circle, but where do we go from here? Like, I assume they're going to, like, deal with the, the whole thing of him being hunted, obviously, but, like, like, is he going to dip on his, like, loved ones that he's just reunited with?
I was about to say, since he's literally that typical bounty hunter, I'm a badass, like, even though he does have, like, a lot of love for his girl and, like, he did return like he promised, he's going to have to leave again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he would just for basically her own safety. Their own safety as well, like,
Because that was a hidden rebel outpost as well.
Oh, yeah. But, like, at the same time, it's just, like, anybody with a target on their back. Like, when you get a target on your back, you forgo any, like,
comfort
of, like, family members or loved ones, or
you always gotta look over your shoulder.
Yeah,
you gotta keep moving. You can't stop.
You gotta keep going, because, like, if you stop, you die. Like,
yeah, somebody's gonna catch up with you eventually.
Oh yeah.
out of this whole book, I think another thing that I would like to touch on specifically was, so in Legends, the character Zuckuss here, because Zuckuss and Forlom have, pretty much since The Empire Strikes Back, they've been a dynamic duo. They hunt together, they're bounty hunters, he's an actual organic while Forlom is 100% robot or droid. And Zuckuss, before he became a bounty hunter, he was a findsman for his people, Gans. And since he's a Gan findsman, those are specific people amongst their culture who are focused on, who have very minor force sensitivity and can almost have precognitive abilities. So you kind of see a little bit of that in this, and I like that because that takes something that was previously Legends material and recanonizes it. So super cool to see that, and I know Matt approves of that because that was one of the cooler aspects about that niche bounty hunter. Nobody ever really talks about Zuckuss and Forlom. Everybody wants to talk about IG-88 and Boba Fett and Bosk, and even Dengar. Even Dengar, over Dengar, these guys? No way. To me, out of those 6, Dengar is last. My man is a normal human with toilet paper on his head.
But Dengar is basically his only claim to fame is that he has a hate hard on for Han Solo.
Yeah, they've got beef just from years and years of basically being at odds, just being on the opposite teams.
Yeah.
But my rating on this book, I'm probably gonna sit at a 3.5. I thought it was a point better than mediocre, but it wasn't anything that deemed really 4 territory, or definitely not a 5. What would you say?
I'd definitely say that it was a 3, if not what you said, a 3.5.
Okay. Cool.
I think that's very fair what you gave it.
All right. Nice. Well, introduce us to number 3, Matt. This is your second pick.
It is Image book, Scumbag numeral uno.
Yeah, so this was a series that a lot of people were looking forward to. This is also, so every month, for those of you who don't know about preview guides and about ordering comics, every month, Previews is the company. They send out a big preview guide that has all the independent publishers. Basically, it has all the comic books that come out except Marvel and DC. And every month in that book, there's between 3 to 7, or 3 to 5 gems of the month, which are basically books that you don't want to miss. And that was one of them. Scumbag, number 1. By Rick Remender. A lot of people also like Rick Remender. I can't say that I've read any of his material, but this book was pretty cool. I like the idea, and I like how everything happened in this first issue. It made sense,
I mean, yeah.
It did, for what was going on.
It did make sense. I can understand, because when you read me the synopsis on it, I was like, well, how does a man accidentally get
how does he become the perfect spy?
How does he get what's basically the equivalent of super soldier serum? How does he acquire this if he is a destitute drug addict and
has the intelligence of a 5th grader?
Dropped out in the 5th grade and has, it even says in the character thing in the bag, it says he has a IQ of 89, which is 6 points just over 10 points away from being legally retarded. And I'm not saying that as a derogatory. I mean literally legally retarded.
Yeah, and it's crazy because for somebody who does have all of that on his resume, he really kind of found his way around. I know this guy is used to it by now. Like you said, he's broke, he's stupid, he's basically a bar-hopping druggie. He doesn't really have a whole lot going for him, but it seems like he knows how to get around and get about and get what he needs.
Yeah, he's got the street smarts,
basically.
So to say. Yeah, he does have the street smarts of it. And I definitely And it's true. I think it's on the cover right there. It's like the world's fate rests in the hand with the worst person on it. Like, yeah, rests with the worst person on it. And like literally, like he is a scumbag. Like that's the whole point. Like,
yeah,
you know, you just read it and you're not like, oh, I automatically love this character.
Or
like he's
feel bad for him.
Or feel bad for him. You're just like sitting there going like, okay, so he's a scumbag.
This
like,
is exactly
literally,
what
like,
it was advertised as.
Perfect advertising image, like.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really good read. Will I end up reading more than probably 3 issues? No, only because there's always new stuff coming in that I've got to be reading so I can educate other people about it as well as educate myself. So I'm always on the move when it comes to reading, but I will most definitely at least be reading issue 2. All right, real quick. Favorite and least favorite part of this one.
My favorite part of it would have to be the just the way it just the interaction between the hologram that he sees after he accidentally gets the serum, like the interaction with that.
Yeah.
Is just
that was hilarious.
Hilarious. Like just like that took over the book in my opinion, and it was just funny as mess from that point on. It's like, you know, the hologram was like, it's your duty now, da 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 da. If you don't do what I say, like hundreds of thousands of people in New York will like die or something, you know,
yeah.
like, you know, oh, scary. And he's like, his response to that is like, F all these people, like,
yeah,
you know, and if you don't shut up, you're about to get some duty in your hand. Like, he was talking about taking a dump on her, like, my gosh, like, this man's is crazy, like.
Yeah, you thought he was going to be able to do that to a hologram? Crazy about you. But yeah, to say the least, this book was an absolute, like, goon comic. Like, this was hilarious. Yeah. But it's very well done. So, if you're a fan of, like, the silly, and if you're a fan of just, like, you know, out there, something interesting, something that, you know, has an awesome cover, you know, pick this up. Just give the number 1 a try. It's worth it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
My rating on it would probably sit... I'd give it a 3.5. I thought it was better than it wasn't.
I'd give it a 3.5 as well. I like that opinion, but I never got around to saying what I didn't like about the book.
Oh, well, what did you not like?
Well, the one thing that I didn't like about the book was just it goes a little bit. And I know you're going to say this is weird coming from my mouth. But it goes a little bit too far, in my opinion, in one of the panels. Like, when he's, like, literally squirting out the behind on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay, we didn't actually have to see it. Like, can we just make the sound effect and move on? Because that's just... disgusting, my guy. Like, that made me want to blow ketchup chunks.
I was about to say, it kind of tells you how, like, much this guy just really doesn't give a shit. Oh,
yeah, and, like, people are filming him while he's squirting, like, diarrhea on the sidewalk. Like, people are just, like, walking by him, like, literally filming this guy.
It could have been so much worse, though. Like, imagine that scene, but in, like, something, like, pretty violent. It'd be everywhere. It'd be thrown up against the wall. It'd be covering people. Like,
yeah, but Pretty Violent's more about blood and shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and, like, guts. Like, and I can get that. Like, guts is fine with me.
The gore over defecation.
Yeah, like, defecate, that's just disgusting, man. Like, at least take it behind the dumpster, my dude. Like, you know, like, not on the sidewalk.
Well, see, like, you know how the panel that initiates that, like, he was in front of that door that was closed? Mm-hmm. I thought he was just in there. And then whenever it shows those panels working its way down, and then you flip the page and see that he's just on a New York street, I was like, bro, you could have just done what you did in the alley, and it would have been fine.
Well, no, like, it shows you, like, he was in a hallway and stuff, but he's hallucinating there.
Right.
You can't really pick up on that. Like, the first time I had to go back and read that part again.
That makes sense.
To realize that he's so high at that point. Like, he's tripping balls. He thinks he's home in his apartment when really he's on the side of the road in the middle of New York.
He's on the sidewalk, like a busy sidewalk.
Yeah, in the middle of New York. Like, you know, and he's just taking a dump. First of all, like,
that wasn't really a voluntary. Like, that was literally his guts getting loosened up for what was happening.
Oh, he had his pants around his ankles, bro. Like,
because he knew it was going to happen, and there's no fighting it. Might as well not dirty up my clothes. You know
I mean, shoot, at least take
I can tell you a story after the podcast about that.
Oh,
so since we gave our ratings, and this book is grotesque, we're going to move on to number 2, which was actually a number 2 indeed. This is Stillwater, number 2. Super interesting book. Number 1 was killer, and as Skelly Boy or Jacob and I had said on that podcast where we reviewed number 1, it could have gone anywhere, and it probably went the best route it could have gone. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, definitely. For sure.
Because you, in addition to reading number 2, Matthew actually decided to read issue 1, so he'd be up to speed on both. So
yeah.
Tell me what you really think of just like this Stillwater book in general, not just in issue 2.
Yeah, like it's fire in my opinion because like, you know, it's like, you know, they're in the town like of Stillwater, and it's like, you know, how like if you're in the borders, you basically like can't die.
You can live forever. You don't age.
You don't age. You don't die. Like you see, like, in this number 2, you see a kid literally get shoved off a second-story building, like, off the roof of it, and, like, he's, like, like, on the pavement, and, like, you see the blood coming out of his mouth and, like, around his head, so, like, and the main character's like, holy crap, like,
he's dead.
Get a doctor. It takes him to the doctor, the kid hops up and runs away, like, you know, perfectly fine, like, no injuries, like...
Yeah.
You know, so, like, even, like, region factor, too, like, you know.
That was wild.
That was wild, and, like...
Well, what do you think about the developments in issue 2? So, like, in issue 2, you see that same kid that you're talking about from 1. And, like, but this time, he's doing some espionage of his own.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think that's, that was pretty interesting. Also, like, the reveal of how, like, he gets out, the main character gets out of getting, like, capped, like, literally. Yeah. Like, you know, how he gets out of getting killed by these people is kind of interesting. And, like, it's like a moment where you're reading it and you're like, oh, the plot doth thicken. Like, you know, like, it kind of gets you interested. Like, every couple pages is just something in there that
a little
grabs your attention enough to make you want to buy the next issue, at least, you know. Like,
yeah, I definitely say so. And with number 2, it did kind of, like you were saying, like, throw me a curveball. Like, I was not expecting Daniel to get off the way he did. Like, yeah, we know the relationship from issue 1, like, which is what helped what happened. But I definitely did not see, like, the story being as big and as deep as it was once we kind of got those flashbacks to, like, like, the main character Daniel's childhood and, like, what happened in his infancy.
Yeah.
So, if you guys read Stillwater number 1 and you thought Stillwater number 1 was good, whether it was on our recommendation, whether you picked it up yourself, I suggest getting Stillwater number 2 and maybe even adding this to your pull box. I generally wait about 3 or more issues of liking a certain title before I recommend it to someone's pull box, because, you know, you're basically upfront subscribing to paying $4 a month.
Yeah.
You know, for that. So, you know, too many people already have, like, $10 streaming services that are for the whole month. So, like, why would you want to add another 4, like, to, another hobby? I know more people are TV watchers than comic readers, unfortunately, nowadays. Yeah. But, yeah, this is freaking awesome. And my rating on it, like, I would give this a 4. I'd give this a 4. I thought it was definitely worthy of the 4. What do you think?
I'd say a 4 or 5 in my opinion.
A 4 or 5?
I said a 4 or 5, 4.5.
Oh, got you. 4.5. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. I got you. Well, would you like to introduce that?
All right.
The numero uno. You can give me the tablet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is one of Mac's picks, but it's Dark Knight's Death Metal Robin King #1. And it's I like the cover art of it. Like, Robin King is just standing on a bunch of, like, corpses, basically, like,
yeah,
and it's like, long live the king, It's
yeah,
type nice.
This title is, well, not title, because it's not. I saved them all, and it's such an how did you do that? How did I save these?
How did you? I mean, luck, I guess.
I was about to say, like, they all fell on that box, but, like...
Yeah, but I mean, like... Yeah.
That's the only thing about this holder. This holder's not really good once you get the max amount of books. Like, once 4 or 5 pop up, like, oh, yeah.
Let's not touch it.
Yeah. But, this book, not a series, but this is a one-shot. This is a Dark Knight's Death Metal one-shot, as you can see on the top. So far, though, this has easily been the best one-shot. I've only read 3 out of, like, the 5 or 6 that have been released, and I think the 8 or 10 that are planned. But this one, awesome. Suggest anybody who thinks the Robin King is cool, the design's cool, like, the concept is cool. If you just think the cover's cool, this is an awesome cover for October. Purple and orange. You've got, like, kind of a really creepy character with the Robin King on it. And like you said, being on a pile of corpse is almost the equivalent of, like, including some kind of zombie, except they're not still alive. They're not the undead.
They're just the dead.
Exactly. And he made sure of it.
Yeah. And I love, like, the whole, like, first half of this book. Like, the whole first half of this story with the Robin King in it. It's like, basically, it goes into a brief little, like, origin and stuff, and then has him, like, doing all these different stuff in his universe,
right,
like, where he's from, and he's, like, just, like, taking out some big names, man. Like, he's just got, and, like, I love the big double page, like,
the splash
page, and it has, like, numbered, like, different items that's on his workbench.
Yeah.
And up in the top right page on the top is, like, a little list, and it tells you what each item is. And, like, he's got, like, everything under the sun. Nth metal handcuffs, like, every shade of kryptonite made into a ring, so that he can, like, clap all the super people and stuff, like, all the Kryptonians, basically.
Yeah, he's got a plan for almost any hero that he could come in contact with.
Yeah, he's got the Joker gas, which is the smile legs, like, he's got unholy water, holy water. He's got, like,
gotta have both.
Oh yeah, gotta have both in case you run across some demons or some Christians. Like, it's either one. It's like some Christians.
Might as well throw some unholy on them. Sinners.
Go to hell.
Slinging the water on them.
Yeah, just
straight out of the
burn in hell. But yeah, like, and it's wild too, because he's just, like, it's so funny to see a Bruce Wayne, and the whole thing about Bruce Wayne is, like, he doesn't like guns, he's Batman, kind of thing. Right. That's the normal Bruce Wayne we know and love. But, like, this one is, like, got, like like a, I don't know, how old is he in this one?
He's 10.
Like, yeah, prepubescent, like, hard-on for guns in this one. He's like, ooh, a Colt 45. Like,
Yeah.
like, geez, bro.
And
Like,
he's like, not yours anymore, and shoots the dude through the head. And I'm just like,
yeah,
epic.
like, it's mine now. Like,
It was, but yeah, just like, and there's not too much more that I can elaborate on how cool the Robin King part of the story is, but this is an added bonus and something that I was kind of oblivious to in ordering this comic, that it actually has a bonus story in it that's the first appearance of a different dark multiverse Batman. So, and that Batman, if you want to know what it looks like, I'm not going to show it to you, but it's a mix of Batman, Duke Thomas Signal, and Ra's al Ghul. So
Yeah.
if you think that's cool, think about Batman with a that carries a permanent sword.
yeah.
That would be cool. In addition to all of his bad things, But just that character, I didn't read that story. Matthew read that story though.
Yeah. Well, I didn't read it, but I briefly skimmed through it because we
I
were
got you.
focusing on the Robin King one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, I've mainly just skimmed through it for the art, and it just looks like cool as mess, man. Like, especially that Batman's design he's got kind of like this armor, and it looks like there's this, like, green liquid flowing throughout it, like, and so literally it, like, looks like he's, like,
Permanently in the Lazarus.
like, permanently in the Lazarus
Woo!
pit, basically. And I'm sitting there like, if that is Lazarus pit water right there, like, if that is, like Ra's al Ghul just
He
teched up,
basically
like,
looked like the Batman, Ra's al Ghul, or Dark Multiverse Batman of that guy who has like the fishbowl thing like around his neck from Hellboy. You know who I'm talking about? It was basically like that except green,
yeah, kinda. But, like, at the same time as well, like, if that is Lazarus pit water, though, like, dummy hype, like, you're not going to be able to take that man's, like, very
Nah.
easily, like, and I want to see what they do with him if that is Lazarus pit water, because, like, he could be a big bad later on. Like,
Definitely. And with it being a first appearance, like, even if the Robin King's not cool enough for you, if you like Batman and Ra's al Ghul and their, eon-long rivalry, then pick it up. Like, it's definitely worth the $5.99 cover price. Unfortunately, they got it on that $5.99 cover price instead of the regular $4.99 cover price for one shot, because DC's trying to make that extra dollar with their Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're trying to get, they kind of struggling a little bit,
Compared to Marvel and even compared to like indies. Like, indies are popular nowadays.
Yeah, because like that's something that I've noticed recently is just stuff that people would be like, oh, that's fringe, oh, that's like, blah blah blah, is now like super popular now.
Yeah.
So everything that I've always been into, even since I was a little kid, but that got me bullied, is now like the popular thing to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, irony. Why couldn't I have had this era when I was a kid? Like, I don't care now. Like, they could pick on me about it all they want now, but like, I was a kid, bruh.
Yeah. I feel that. Well, like, what rating would you give the Robin King?
I'd definitely give it a 4.5.
This one's a 5 for me, bro. This is the closest thing that I would say I've gotten to like a real true blue 5. And, word on my boy Skelly Boy, he says the only thing he can hand out 5s are well-crafted one-shots. And this is about as well-crafted as a one-shot can get. Not only do you have a banger origin story for, like, the bulk of the story, but then you get a first appearance. And what's better than having 2 keys in one book for one good price?
Yeah. But, I mean, for me, like I said before we started the podcast, like, I said, like, when we were putting them in order of what we were going to rank them as, like, Stillwater and Robin King, for me, were, like, tied.
Neck and neck.
Like, they were neck and neck. Like, I couldn't figure out, like, which one should be number one, like. But, yeah. It was a good book, though. I loved it.
MJ, I did want to respond to you. I did see Future Start, that DC initiative that they're going to be doing, or Future State that they're going to be doing. One of our other friends who was in here earlier, Leighton Azell, he was talking about it too, that that's going to kind of be the new publishing initiative for, his last name's Azell. But they're going to do a new publishing initiative at DC for young superheroes, and hopefully it'll be kind of like a similar take to the not Young Justice, but to kind of what Marvel's been doing with giving Miss Marvel her own series, and Miles Morales his own series, and Ghost Spider her own series. Like, all of these young teenage heroes have their book together with champions, but unlike DC, where all those new characters only have Young Justice for the most part, or Teen Titans, not many characters over there have their own books. So I think probably sometime around the beginning of the year, January, February, that's what DC's planning on doing, is giving some of their bigger young characters their own titles.
Yeah.
More than likely. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any speculation. We were holding out to the very last minute to see if Jacob or Skelly Boy was going to be present for the podcast. And so not only was it your regular top 5 when we were originally planning for it to be a top 7, but we also didn't have much time to look up speculation. But I also haven't heard any rumors or anything that I would deem worth talking about. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening to or watching podcast number 40, and we hope you'll be around for 41. And we're well on the path to 50 now. See y'all later.